Psalm 19 says, you see the brilliance and glory and magnificence of God. But why would these men want to argue that you see the brilliance of evolution? It doesn't even make sense. How can people with MDs and PhDs be so stupid? Evolution is brilliant? Evolution can't be brilliant. Only persons are brilliant.
I find myself, and it's not just me, I find myself oftentimes when I'm speaking to, some of you, some of you young men, I'll say, now son, or to you young ladies, now my daughter. And when I'm doing that, and when an older person is doing that, and different cultures will do this in different ways, right? It is a term of endearment, it's a term of affection, but it's also an acknowledgement of a certain reality, which is that when we reach a certain stage in our life and a certain stage in our maturity, we take on more of a paternal role. Not only do those of us who have a lot of this white stuff look at you and think of our children, but a lot of you look at those of us who have a lot of this white stuff, right? And you think of us more in more paternal ways. He would continue to revise them until 1559, but he first publishes the Institutes in 1536. He came to faith when? 1533, when he was 24. 3 years later, he's been a Christian for 3 years, and he publishes what would become arguably the most significant theological treatise ever written, not much older than many of you students right here today. And after having been a Christian for far fewer years than many of you here today. John Calvin died in 1564. That makes him how old? 55. The age I am now, 55. That's all he got. I am constantly amazed, constantly blown away at the number of years many of the reformers and many of the great Christian leaders and theologians lived, because many of them only got late 40s, mid 50s, late 50s. And the volume of what they produced was astounding. Why is that important? Okay, well, when we talk about the sphere of the state, let's say that, after this meeting is over, after this, Christian Scholars Week is over, that all of us get just very excited and we have convictions about, these spheres, and we just decide, we don't think that the way the state is operating right now is legitimate. So we're going to gather ourselves and we're going to declare ourselves a new state. Would we then have sphere sovereignty? No, because we'd be an illegitimate state. Let's say two men decide to go down to South Africa and get married, because same-sex marriage is a thing in South Africa. Well, it's not a thing, right? Same-sex marriage doesn't exist. I don't care what any government says, right? It's not a thing. But they can go down there and they can get a certificate, and they can come and they can say, well, hey, now we're married, and so we're a family. We have to be recognized as a family, just like any other family has to be recognized as a family. According to this doctrine and sphere sovereignty, do we now say that sphere sovereignty from a biblical perspective has been granted to those two men, or has been granted to those two women? No, because that's illegitimate. That's illegitimate. Just like there can be illegitimate claim to state sovereignty, just like there can be illegitimate claim to family sovereignty, there can be illegitimate claims to church sovereignty as well. But I must say, on behalf of all of us, the entire Zulu clan, that we are incredibly blessed by the time that the Lord has allowed us to spend here. It is becoming increasingly evident to us that this is going to be far more difficult than we ever anticipated. All but one of our children has been here now for most of their lives. Elijah's the only one, and he's just under half of his life here. But for all the rest of them, they've been here more than they were in the U.S. And so it is a very difficult thing for us to contemplate. When we came, we said that we were committing to 3 to 5 years. And then eventually 3 to 5 years became 3 plus 5 when we made 8 years. And now we're in our 10th year here. We've known all along that this moment would come. One of the things that became increasingly evident to us was that it was never going to be a good time. That regardless of when this happened in God's providence, it wouldn't be a good time. But also because of the ties that bind, because of the fact that this is such a huge part of our lives and our history, and will continue to be a huge part of whatever it is that the Lord does with us individually and collectively from here on out.